Anyone lived in a pretty how town. Up so floating, many bells down. Spring, summer, autumn, winter. He sang his, didn't he danced his did. Woman and men, both little and small, cared for anyone, not at all. They slowed there, is it they reaped their same. Sun, moon, stars, gray. My summer job is giving tours of the woods and trails just outside my hometown of Older Hills, New Jersey. So far, it has been a nice job to have right before starting college. The pay is good. Appreciative customers often give me tips, which I'm allowed to keep. And I love being outdoors. I'm a small, pretty girl, and often people express surprise that I'm willing to go out into the woods alone, even in broad daylight, with total strangers. Maybe it's just the carelessness of youth. My routine is simple. I stand in the main parking lot of the Older Hills Woods Reservation, wearing khakis, hiking boots, and a maroon Older Hills Parks Department polo shirt. I carry a clipboard, but the clipboard is really for show, since I keep all the forms, maps, and information I might need stored in my phone. My boss has me carry the clipboard because, he says, studies show that clipboards let people know you're somewhere in an official capacity. My boss is a smart cookie. Whenever I think of Older Hills, I think of that E. Cummings poem, Anyone Lived in a Pretty Howell Town. Older Hills is a pretty Howell town, full of old money in old mansions with big emerald green lawns. In the woods outside town are full of history and romance and mystery. I love spending time in them and leading others through them. Last week, a group of 3 guys pulled up in a monstrously huge jet black F-250 truck with Texas plates that squealed to a stop, taking up 1.5 parking spaces. I started to go over there and yell at them to move it, but when they got out of the truck, I thought better of it. All 3 were big dudes, and they kind of just gave off a vibe. The 3 guys were all dressed in shorts and t-shirts. 2 of the 3 had Texas A&M shirts on, so I guess that's where they went to school. The 3rd guy had an eagle clutching an American flag and his talons on his shirt. All 3 had trucker hats. One of them belched. The other 2 followed suit. I glanced half a dozen crushed beer cans in the truck while the doors were open. Expensive truck, expensive college, trying too hard to look like good old boys. I could smell the Axe body spray 10 feet away. Frat boys, I thought. This will be good practice for going to frat parties, I told myself, trying to look on the bright side. To tell the truth though, I was starting to get the jitters. There was something off about these guys. The biggest guy in particular, who I could already tell was their ringleader, had eyes that seemed a little cruel and wild. "Sup, baby?" said the shortest and fattest of the 3, giving me a wink. A million memes danced in my mind. I stifled a smirk. "Hey there," I said to the tall guy and smiled, just to piss the short guy off. "Would you like a tour of the woods? It's only $10 and the woods are really gorgeous." The tall guy smirked. "So you're asking if we would be willing to pay $10 to go out in the woods with a pretty little lady? Well, shit, yeah we are." Then he laughed and winked. "I'm only joking with you. What I meant to say is we love a tour of these woods, and $10 is a bargain." The middle guy, the guy in the flag shirt, spit tobacco on the ground. Super charming. He wiped his lips in the back of his hand. "Shit, I can't even get a can of Skull in the fucking East Coast for $10. $10 for a little natural beauty can't go wrong there." He said East Coast, like it made him want to throw up in his mouth. But I ignored that and said, okay, well, we can get started right away. My name is Cordy, by the way. The tall one did the talking for all three of them. I imagine he usually did. I'm Tex. This little turd blossom here. Talkin', his name is Hoss. That fat guy there is Jimbo. Tex, Hoss, and Jimbo. Of course. Tex, Hoss, and Jimbo strutted back to the truck and hauled out 3 backpacks. I was not at all surprised and noticed the truck had a Sigma Chi fraternity decal on it. I'd already heard plenty of stories from friends who had gone off to college. Do we pay you now or when we get back? Asked Tex, casually, pulling a wad of 20s and 50s from his pants. Hey now, Tex, don't flash a roll like that, someone might try to rob you, said Jimbo. Shit, said Tex, I'll give up this roll over their dead body. All 3 laughed. We can take care of all that when we get back, I said. If you're not satisfied, I don't like the charge. We're pretty friendly and unofficial here, and we aim to please. I'm sure we're going to be satisfied, said Hoss. I mean, you seem like you're real good people. I definitely had the jitters and the heebie-jeebies, but I also felt like I had a job to do, and I had to prove that I was capable of doing it. I guess that's why I decided to press on ahead despite my trepidation. Well, I said, follow me. Hey, you guys are Sig Cheese? I hear you throw some kick-ass parties. Yeah, said Hoss, walking behind me as we made our way into the woods. You haven't lived until you've lived through Derby Days weekend. Yep, Tex agreed. Cool. I start mass next semester and I'm pretty sure there's a chapter. Yeah, said Jimbo. Massel's pretty hard, but for East Coast pussies. The 3 high-fived, about 500 steps in, and it already felt like the longest tour of the summer. I decided to take the 3 frat boys on a Storm King Hill, which is a challenging but absolutely gorgeous hike that takes hikers past and sometimes through absolutely gorgeous flora, and also offers a fair chance of spotting a red fox or some deer. Bears are on occasionally a risk in the woods, but I'd like the old jokes say, if worse comes to worse, I didn't have to outrun the bear, I just have to outrun the 3 Texans. Probably just Jimbo. A voice in my head then asked, what if you have to outrun 3 Texans? It was a warm, overcast day, threatening rain, and none of the trails were very busy. The Storm King Trail in particular, which is our most challenging, but almost most beautiful, hike was deserted except for the Texans and me. Tex, Hoss, and Jimbo begun to linger together, whispering back and forth, 15 or 20 feet behind me, and it was starting to make me a little uneasy. Hey guys, I said, would you please try to keep up? It would make me feel a little bit better if we all stayed together. They did scurry to catch up with me as we hiked the muddy trails and took in the sights. But Jimbo commented, I bet a pretty lady like you could get into all kinds of trouble up here in the great outdoors, huh? I tried not to show how this vaguely veiled threat made me feel, so I just smirked at him. I'll bet Texans can get in some pretty good trouble anywhere, huh, Jimbo? That made Hoss and Tex hoot and holler, and Jimbo joined in. We were a few miles into the hike, and had been hiking steadily uphill for some time, when Jimbo stopped, took out his backpack, and opened it up. He withdrew 40-ounce bottles of Budweiser and started handing them out. You know, you guys really aren't supposed to be drinking out here, I protested meekly. And just what you gonna do about it? Asked Jimbo, with an edge in his voice. I could feel the mood starting to pivot, almost imperceptibly, from aw shucks, it's all good fun to something a little more sinister. I decided I was in no position to push the issue right now, so I just shrugged and said, if anything too serious happened, I would just call park security. And are y'all gonna call security just because some good old boys wanna wet their whistles? Asked Tex. I laughed. Nah, I don't drink beer or I'd have one myself. You don't have any wine coolers in your bag, do you, Jimbo? He grinned a beefy, ready-faced grin. Sorry, fresh out. Oh well, I sighed. Think y'all can keep up while I drinking your beer? Shit, said Haas. I was an all-state running back in high school and drunk every damn down. Only thing you were all-state in was pouring your pud, said Tex with a laugh. Haas looked downright huffy and muttered something under his breath. We had hiked another mile or so, and we were almost to the part of the woods that I wanted to show them. There's a beautiful clearing with an idyllic, bucolic little pond that usually full of frogs and turtles this time of year. It is hard to find. You have to do a little bushwhacking and also do a little bit of rock climbing. And as far as I know, I'm the only person who has ever found it. I know probably sounds careless. I was just asking for trouble, leading 3 rowdy frat boys to a clearing deep in the woods. But I just felt like there was something so magical about the place that I'd be safe once they saw it. Still, I was a little jittery when I said, "You boys want to do a little bushwhacking now? See something really cool?" They hooted and hollered, "Sure thing, I'm always down for a little bushwhacking," said Jimbo, predictably enough. I sighed and picked up a big stick and started clearing heavy, droopy tree limbs out of the way. "Be careful," I added. "Some of these plants have thorns that hurt like hell." After beating our way through thick vegetation, we had to scamper up a small, craggy embankment. Haas must have lost his grip at one point because I heard him yell, "Son of a bitch, I cut my fucking hand." "Does it hurt?" laughed Jimbo. "Hurts like 8 bitches on a bitch boat, you fucking bitch." "Boys, watch your language," I giggled, "or I won't show you my favorite spot in the woods." I saw the 3 of them exchange sly, mean glances. I got a serious case of the jitters again. Suddenly, I saw Jimbo reach into his backpack and pull out a roll of duct tape. "What are you gonna do with that?" I yelled. Tex said, "Well, Cordy, we already wet our whistles. Now we're gonna wet our fucking dicks. And out here is pretty far. I'm pretty sure nobody can hear you scream." Leading us out here, don't even try to tell us you didn't want this bitch, added Jimbo thoughtfully. Haas wasn't saying anything, just staring at me like a wild predator, which I guess is exactly what he was. I took off running in the direction of the clearing. Tex laughed. "Oh, you'd better do it over there if it's your favorite spot." "Well, I'm fine with that. Let's make this shit romantic, boys." Suddenly, the 3 of them were hot on my heels. I slipped in the mud, and Tex, surprisingly fast despite his girth, had his filthy little fingers on one of my belt loops, and yanked hard, but I got away. I kept running as hard as I could toward the circle of the trees and surrounded the clearing. Someone else, Haas, I realized, was so close to me that I could feel his breath on the back of my neck. Never mind the jitters, my whole adrenal system was tweaked, and I could taste the taste of battery acid and bile in my throat. I slipped free of another pair of hands, and this time I didn't bother looking back to see who they belonged to. I felt desperate, like a hunted animal, running so hard that I felt that my heartbeat was going through my chest. I ran into the clearing. I think Haas must have been the first one to notice my boss. Haas's eyes got big, like when someone saw something scary in one of those old cartoons. And he tried to stop and run the other way, but the ground in the clearing was so slippery, he just fell on his ass. By then, Jimbo and Tex had also looked up and seen my boss and some of his assistants, but it was much too late by then. I do wonder what they thought when they saw a 7-foot-tall man-shaped thing with the head of a stag and the torso of a man and a big, muscular, sinewy goat legs. My boss has big brawny arms and always carries an axe, and he's very theatrical about his kills. His assistants, devotees really, who look just like him, only a little smaller and a little less majestic. They prefer to use daggers. In a matter of moments, the fight was over, and the frat boys died screaming. The rest of the clearing was, as always, peaceful and placid, the very image of the prolepsarian bliss. A frog hopped into the pond and made a splash while one of the stag's headed goats, underlings, ripped off the hosse's right arm and began to munch on it serenely. My boss is a smart cookie. He knows. Nobody would question that a college girl standing around in a polo shirt and holding a clipboard must be an official of some kind. Never mind that Older Hills is such a rich place and too full of money to do anything so common as offer guides to the goddamn woods. The only things that Older Parks and Recs departments really cares about is annual cocktails galas in the park. No matter how many times I lead sacrificial victims to their doom, in this enchanted and hallowed space, it always gets so jittery. It is such a thrill to serve a powerful, virile, laughing god. The compensation is so amazing, but most of the thing I do is for the awe. My boss says that I'm the best guide he has ever had. How? Not just my boss, my god. An hour later, it was all over but the feasting. You served me well as always. My boss beamed at me while he munched languidly on Tex's brain. The clearing was strewn with body parts and blood and viscera. Someone's liver was strung up on a yew tree and some crows had already begun nibbling on it. A camo hat and a MAGA hat, smeared with blood and dotted with bits of scalp, were dangling from the limbs on trees down by the lake, and someone's hiking boot, with the foot still inside and oozing blood, had caught the attention of some more crows, who were pecking greedily. I saw one of them pull a big chunk of something out of the boot and then fly off and enjoy his prize. One of the stag-headed god's devotees had ripped the skin off Jimbo's face and eaten it like string cheese, and was now playing with his big fat skull, pretending to make it talk. "Well, hail deed, little lady," he said in a perfect Texas drawl that made me giggle. I took Tex's roll of 20s and put it in my backpack. The tips are my favorite part of the job. I tell you what. Older Hills is such an opulent, pretty how town. And yet, just a few miles outside town, deep in the forest, a ritual such savage and primal pandemonium is the law of the land. Sometimes, I think about what a contradiction this is. But the thing is, I believe that many of the first families of Older Hills have a bone-deep understanding that there is something that lives out here in the woods, and that as long as he stays healthy and happy, the town also stays healthy and happy. The stag-headed god is so old and so strong, older than Older Hills, and I believe that is why no one ever questioned why so many people go out into the woods with a high school girl pretending to be their guide and never, ever heard from again. Pretty how towns know how to keep their secrets.